In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where stars whispered secrets to wandering souls, the year was 2147, and Earth had become a beacon for the desperate. No longer just a blue marble spinning in solitude, it was now the reluctant haven for refugees from 100 fractured worlds. Wars raged across galaxies, empires crumbled like ancient dust, and beings of every shape fled to our borders, seeking solace in humanity's chaotic embrace. But borders, even in space, were guarded with iron fists and laser grids, and not everyone was welcome. Picture this: a courtroom on the orbital station orbiting Earth, a colossal ring of steel and glass hanging like a halo above the planet. The air hummed with the low buzz of holographic projectors, casting ethereal lights on the faces of judges from the Interstellar Alliance, stern figures in flowing robes, their eyes glowing with augmented implants. The accused stood in the center, shackled by energy cuffs that pulsed with a faint blue light, her form a vision that could steal the breath from any mortal. Lyra, from the war-torn world of Zerathia, had hair like cascading moonlight, pure white and shimmering under the artificial glow. Her skin was alabaster pale, flawless as freshly fallen snow, and her ears tapered into delicate points, like those of ancient elves from forgotten myths. She wore a tattered gown that clung to her curvaceous figure, a remnant of her royal heritage, silken fabric that hugged her hips and accentuated her graceful, alluring lines, though now stained with the grime of her perilous journey. Her eyes, a deep violet that seemed to hold the mysteries of nebulae, darted around the room, filled with a mix of defiance and quiet terror. The charges were read aloud by a robotic voice, echoing through the chamber. Lyra of Zerathia, you stand accused of illegal border breach, espionage, and endangering the security of Earth Federation territories. The penalty? Execution by neural dissolution. The words hung heavy, a death sentence for daring to seek refuge. Zerathia, her home, had been ravaged by endless civil strife, clans tearing each other apart over dwindling resources. Lyra wasn't a spy. She was a survivor, smuggled across the void by ruthless traffickers who promised safety but delivered chains. Yet here she was, seconds from oblivion, her heart pounding like a trapped star about to supernova. Enter Eli Thorne, a human lawyer whose name was whispered in the halls of justice like a legend. Tall and broad-shouldered, with tousled dark hair and piercing green eyes that could unravel the toughest defenses, Eli had made his career fighting for the voiceless. Born on the dusty colonies of Mars, he'd clawed his way to Earth's elite legal circles, driven by a fire that burned brighter than any fusion reactor. He wasn't just a defender, he was a crusader, his suits tailored sharp as a blade, his voice a weapon that could sway juries and shatter prejudices. But today, as he burst through the courtroom doors, unannounced, unauthorized, his datapad clutched like a lifeline, something deeper stirred within him. It wasn't just justice. It was the sight of her, Lyra, standing there like a fallen goddess that ignited a spark he couldn't ignore. Objection! Eli's voice boomed, cutting through the tension like a plasma cutter. Heads turned, murmurs rippled. The lead judge, a hulking figure from the Orion Belt colonies, slammed his gavel, a holographic one that sparked on impact. Who dares interrupt these proceedings? This is a closed session. Eli strode forward, his boots echoing on the metallic floor, ignoring the security drones whirring to life around him. Eli Thorne, representing the accused under Article 47 of the Galactic Rights Charter. This trial is a farce, and I'll prove it. His eyes locked onto Lyra's, and in that instant, time seemed to stretch. She tilted her head slightly, her pointed ears twitching, curiosity flickering in those violet depths. Who was this human, this bold intruder, risking everything for a stranger like her? The courtroom erupted into chaos. Guards moved to restrain him, but Eli held up his datapad, projecting a holographic stream of data, encrypted files he'd hacked from the trafficker's network during a sleepless night in his cramped orbital apartment. Look at this. Lyra isn't an invader, she's a victim. Trafficked from Zerathia by the Shadow Cartel, forced through wormholes against her will. I have logs, neural scans, even witness testimonies from other refugees. The judges exchanged uneasy glances. The audience, a mix of humans, aliens, and hybrids, leaned forward, hooked. Whispers spread. Was this the turning point? Could one man upend the system? Lyra's chains hummed softer now, as if sensing the shift. She watched Eli, her full lips parting slightly in awe. Humans, she'd heard, were reckless, passionate creatures, but this was something out of the star tales her people told around flickering campfires. As the data unfolded in midair, revealing the horrors of her journey, The cramped cargo holds, the leering smugglers, the promises of freedom twisted into nightmares, Eli's argument built like a crescendo. "We're not just talking about one life," he declared, his voice laced with raw emotion. "This is about every refugee knocking on our doors. Earth was built on second chances. Deny her, and we deny our own humanity." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest, unfamiliar and thrilling. In Zerathia, alliances were forged in blood, not words. But this human with his fierce gaze and unyielding stance was rewriting her fate. The judges called for a recess, but the damage was done. The room buzzed with speculation, and as Lee approached the holding platform, their eyes met again. "Why?" she whispered, her voice melodic, like wind through crystal caves. "Because no one deserves to die for seeking a home," he replied, his hand hovering near the energy field separating them. In that moment, amidst the cold machinery of justice, a connection sparked, raw, electric, defying the stars themselves. The recess dragged on, tension coiling like a spring. Eli paced the antechamber, his mind racing through contingencies. He'd pulled all-nighters before, but this felt different. Lyra's image lingered, her elegant form, the way her gown draped over her curves, hinting at worlds unexplored. He shook his head. "Focus, Eli. This was about rights, not whatever this pull was." Back in the courtroom, the judges reconvened, their faces grim. "Mr. Thorne, your evidence is compelling, but protocol demands verification. Until then, the execution proceeds." Lyra's eyes widened, fear flashing like a comet. The neural dissolution chamber activated, a pod of swirling lights descending from the ceiling. Seconds ticked by 10, 9, 8. Eli's heart hammered. He couldn't let this happen. With a desperate lunge, he activated his hidden override device, a gadget smuggled from black market tech wizards. The chamber stuttered, lights flickering. "Not on my watch," he shouted, diving toward Lyra as alarms blared. Guards swarmed, but Eli fought like a man possessed, his fists connecting with armored foes in a blur of motion. One guard lunged with a stun baton. Eli dodged, countering with a precise elbow strike honed from years of colony brawls. Another fired a net gun. Eli rolled, the net snaring empty air. He reached Lyra, slamming his palm on her cuff's release panel. They hissed open, and she stumbled into his arms, her body warm and soft against his, her scent like exotic spices from distant worlds. Together, they bolted for the exit, lasers zipping past. Eli's mind flashed to his own past, losing his family in a refugee crisis on Mars, vowing never to let injustice win. Now, holding this alien beauty, that vow felt personal, intimate. They burst into the station's corridors, pursued by drones. Lyra's hand in his felt right, her touch sending jolts through him. "Who are you, really?" she gasped as they ran. "Your savior," he grinned, pulling her into a service lift. As doors closed, sealing them in temporary safety, their breaths mingled. Her violet eyes searched his, and in the dim light, something unspoken bloomed, a promise of more than just escape. The lift hummed downward toward the docking bays, but danger lurked. Eli knew the Alliance wouldn't let them go easily. Hacking into the station's comms, he broadcasted the evidence live to every feed on Earth and beyond. "See the truth," his voice echoed galaxy-wide. Views spiked, outrage brewing. Lyra watched him, admiration swelling. Humans were legends in Zerathia, fierce, inventive, with hearts that burned hot. She leaned closer, her pointed ears brushing his cheek. "You risk everything for me." "For what's right," he murmured, but his gaze lingered on her lips, full and inviting. The lift jolted to a stop, doors opening to chaos, reinforcements arriving. A fierce skirmish ensued. Eli grabbed a fallen guard's plasma rifle, firing precise shots that disabled rather than killed, his movements fluid from training simulations. Lyra, no damsel, revealed her own prowess. Her fingers glowed with latent Zerathian energy, sending arcs of light to short-circuit drones. Together, they danced through the fray, her gown tearing slightly to reveal more of her lithe form, adding to the adrenaline-fueled intensity. They reached Eli's shuttle, a sleek vessel named Liberty's Edge. As it blasted off into the void, Earth shrinking behind, Lyra collapsed into a seat, her chest heaving. "We're free." "For now," Eli said, plotting a course to a neutral colony. But as hyperspace enveloped them, stars streaking by, their eyes met again. The air thickened with unspoken desire. Lyra's hand reached for his, her touch electric. In Zerathia, saviors are rewarded. Intimately, Eli swallowed, his pulse racing. This was no ordinary rescue. It was the start of something cosmic, forbidden, and utterly irresistible. As the shuttle hurtled through the warp, Eli couldn't shake the image of Lyra's graceful form, the way her white hair cascaded like a waterfall of silk, framing her delicate features. Her ears, those adorable pointed tips, twitched with every emotion, betraying her curiosity about this human world. She shifted in her seat, the remnants of her gown clinging to her curves, accentuating the swell of her hips and the elegant line of her neck. It was distracting, dangerously so. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice a melody that wrapped around him like velvet. "No one has ever fought for me like that." Eli glanced at her, forcing his eyes to stay on hers and not wander. "It's what I do, but you're different. Zerathia, tell me about it. What made you leave?" Her violet eyes clouded with memories. "My world is beautiful once. Crystal spires piercing emerald skies, rivers of liquid light, but war came, clans vying for power. I was a diplomat's daughter meant for alliances through marriage, but the traffickers, they took me in the night, promising passage to safety. Instead, chains and darkness." Eli's jaw tightened. He'd seen too many like her broken by the system. Reaching, he gently squeezed her hand, feeling the softness of her skin, warmer than he'd expected. "You're safe now, we'll expose them all." As they spoke, the shuttle's AI chimed warnings of pursuing vessels. Eli diverted power to shields, but tension mounted. Lyra stood, moving closer, her body brushing against his arm. "Let me help. Zerathians have abilities." She placed her palm on the console, and a faint glow emanated, boosting the engines. Eli watched in awe, but more so at her, the way her gown slipped slightly off one shoulder, revealing smooth, pale skin that seemed to shimmer. His breath caught. This was no time for distractions, yet the air grew heavy with an undercurrent of attraction. Dodging asteroid fields, they evaded the first wave. In the lull, Lyra turned to him, her eyes gleaming. "Humans are fascinating, so bold, so physical." Her fingers traced the back of his hand, sending shivers up his spine. Eli chuckled nervously. "And Zerathians, what's your secret?" She smiled, a coy tilt to her lips. "We feel emotions deeply, connect on levels you might call intimate." Her voice dropped, laced with invitation. The shuttle rocked from a near miss, snapping them back. But the seed was planted, desire simmering beneath the surface as they raced toward uncertainty. Hours blurred into a tense dance through the stars. Eli plotted evasive maneuvers, his mind sharp but his body aware of Lyra's presence. She moved with ethereal grace, assisting where she could, her touch lingering longer each time. When she leaned over to adjust a panel, her hair brushed his face, carrying a scent of wild flowers from alien meadows. It was intoxicating. "Tell me about Earth," she murmured during a quiet moment, sitting close enough that their thighs touched. "Is it as welcoming as they say?" Eli sighed. "Not always. Prejudice runs deep, but there are good people fighting for change like me." His eyes met hers, and for a second, the galaxy faded. Her lips parted, inviting, and he wondered what it would be like to close the distance. A alert blared, Alliance cruisers closing in. "Hold on," Eli yelled, banking hard. Lasers grazed their hull, sparks flying. Lyra gripped his arm, her nails digging in not painfully, but enough to send a jolt of electricity through him. In the adrenaline rush, their bond deepened. She whispered encouragements, her breath warm on his ear. "You're my hero, Eli." And as they outmaneuvered the pursuers, slipping into a nebulous fog, the line between savior and something more blurred, promising passions yet to unfold. The nebula's swirling gases provided cover, a kaleidoscope of colors enveloping the shuttle like a lover's embrace. Eli eased back in his seat, sweat beading on his brow, while Lyra's hand remained on his shoulder, a comforting weight. Her touch was gentle yet firm, her fingers tracing small circles that sent subtle waves of warmth through his shirt. "We made it," she breathed, her voice husky from the excitement. "Because of you?" Eli turned, finding her face inches away. Her violet eyes held a depth that pulled him in like staring into a black hole of emotion. "We made it together," he corrected, his voice low. The cabin felt smaller, the air charged. Slowly, as if drawn by an invisible force, she leaned in. Her lips brushed his in a tentative kiss, soft, exploratory, tasting of sweet nectar from her world. Eli's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, feeling the curve of her body mold against him. The kiss deepened, her tongue darting with a curiosity that matched her alien nature, igniting fires within. They broke apart, breathless. Lyra's cheeks flushed a soft lavender, her ears perking up in delight. Humans kiss like storms, wild and consuming. Eli grinned, his fingers lingering on her hip. "And you, like a gentle wave but with hidden depths." The moment stretched, temptation building, but duty called, he checked the scanners. Clear for now, yet the spark remained, a promise of more in the quiet hours ahead. As they ventured deeper into safe space, conversations flowed, laced with flirtation. Lyra shared tales of Zerathian courtship, dances under twin moons, touches that conveyed souls. Eli recounted Earth's romances, stolen glances in crowded cities, passionate nights under stars. Their proximity grew, hands brushing, eyes locking. In one heated exchange, as she demonstrated a Zerathian greeting, a palm to chest, her hand pressed against his heart, feeling its rapid beat. "It races for me," she teased. "Always," he admitted, covering her hand with his. The erotic tension simmered, building toward an inevitable release as the stars bore witness to their burgeoning connection. In the hushed confines of the shuttle's cabin, with the nebula's vibrant hues painting streaks across the viewport, the air between Eli and Lyra grew thick, almost tangible, like the charged atmosphere before a storm. The engines hummed a low, rhythmic pulse that mirrored the quickening beat of their hearts, and the dim lighting cast soft shadows that danced over her pale skin, highlighting the subtle rise and fall of her chest with each breath. Eli tried to focus on the navigation console, his fingers tapping out coordinates for a hidden outpost on the fringes of neutral space, but his thoughts kept drifting back to that kiss, brief, electric, a tease of what could be. Lyra sat beside him, her legs crossed elegantly, the torn edges of her gown riding up just enough to reveal the smooth curve of her thigh, a sight that made his mouth go dry. She shifted closer, her white hair spilling over one shoulder like a cascade of moonlight, brushing against his arm. "The stars here are different from Zerathia's," she murmured, her voice a sultry whisper that wrapped around him, pulling him in. "Ours burn fiercer, but yours." They seemed to whisper promises. Her violet eyes locked onto his, holding a depth that spoke of ancient desires, unspoken yearnings from a world where connections were forged not just with words, but with the very essence of one's being. Eli swallowed hard, feeling the heat rise in his cheeks. He was no stranger to attraction. Life as a lawyer in the bustling hubs of Earth had brought its share of fleeting romances, but this was something primal, otherworldly. "Promises can be dangerous," he replied, his tone low and rough, trying to inject a note of caution even as his gaze traced the delicate point of her ear, imagining what it would feel like to trail his fingers along it. The shuttle lurched slightly as it navigated a pocket of turbulence, jolting them together, her body pressing against his side for a heart-stopping moment. The contact was innocent enough, yet it sent a spark racing through him, igniting nerves he hadn't known were so sensitive. Lyra didn't pull away. Instead, she let her hand rest on his knee, her touch light but deliberate, fingers splaying out in a way that felt both comforting and provocative. "Danger is what brought us here," she said, her breath warm against his ear, close enough that he could feel the subtle vibration of her words. "You dove into that courtroom like a warrior from our old legends, defying the odds for someone you didn't even know. Why, Eli? What drives a human like you to such passion?" He turned to face her fully, the console forgotten as the autopilot took over. His hand covered hers, thumb brushing over her knuckles in slow, lazy circles. "Maybe it's because I've seen too much suffering, or maybe—" He hesitated, his eyes dropping to her lips, full and inviting, still tinged with the faint flush from their earlier kiss. "Maybe it's you. From the moment I saw you in that chamber, standing there with all that fire in your eyes despite the chains, I couldn't look away." A soft laugh escaped her, melodic and tinged with something deeper, more sensual. Her pointed ears twitched slightly, a Zerathian tell of intrigue, and she leaned in, her gown slipping further off her shoulder to expose the elegant line of her collarbone. The fabric, once regal, now clung to her curves like a second skin, accentuating the swell of her breasts and the dip of her waist. Eli's pulse thundered in his ears, suspense building like a coiled spring as he wondered if she'd close the gap again. "In Zerathia, we don't hide our desires," she confessed, her voice dropping to a husky timbre that sent shivers down his spine. "We embrace them, let them flow like the energy fields that bind our worlds. Tell me, human, what do you desire right now?" The question hung between them, heavy with implication, the shuttle's confines feeling smaller, more intimate. Outside, the nebula swirled in chaotic beauty, but inside, a different storm brewed. Eli's free hand rose almost of its own accord, fingers grazing her cheek, feeling the impossibly soft texture of her skin cool at first, then warming under his touch like marble coming to life. "You," he admitted, the word escaping in a rush, raw and honest. "But we're on the run, Lyra. Pursuers could catch up any second. It's reckless." Her eyes sparkled with mischief, a erotic tension crackling in the air as she traced a finger along his jawline, down to the hollow of his throat. "Reckless is what humans do best. It's why your kind survives the cosmos, bold, unyielding." She shifted, uncrossing her legs and turning her body toward him, her knee brushing his inner thigh in a move that could have been accidental but felt anything but. The subtle pressure sent a jolt straight to his core, building suspense as he fought the urge to pull her onto his lap right there. Alarms flickered on the console, a distant sensor ping, perhaps a scout drone probing the nebula's edge. Eli tensed, his body going rigid, but Lyra's hand slid higher on his leg, her touch a soothing counterpoint to the rising danger. "Let it come," she whispered, her lips hovering near his so close he could taste her breath, sweet, exotic, like forbidden fruit from a distant orchard. "We've evaded them before. Right now, in this moment, let's steal what we can." The ping grew insistent, a reminder that safety was fleeting, but it only heightened the erotic charge, turning the cabin into a pressure cooker of desire. Eli's resolve cracked. He captured her lips in a deeper kiss this time, one hand tangling in her white hair, the strands silky and cool against his palm. She responded with fervor, her body arching into him, the curves of her form pressing against his chest in a way that made every nerve sing. Her hands explored, slipping under his shirt to trace the muscles of his back, nails grazing lightly, sending electric tingles that blurred the line between pleasure and anticipation. As the kiss intensified, the shuttle rocked again, not from turbulence but from a near-miss graze of energy fire. The pursuers had found them, cloaked ships emerging from the nebula's mists like ghosts. Eli broke away reluctantly, his lips tingling, body aching for more. "Hold that thought," he growled, spinning back to the controls, fingers flying as he initiated evasive protocols. Lyra didn't retreat. She stayed close, her hand on his shoulder, a silent promise that this interruption was temporary. The chase reignited, lasers slicing through the colorful gases, forcing Eli to weave the shuttle in daring spirals. Suspense mounted with each near hit, the hull vibrating under stress, but Lyra's presence grounded him, her scent lingering, her touch a recent memory that fueled his determination. She activated her Zerathian abilities again, channeling energy to reinforce the shields, her body glowing faintly, the light accentuating her alluring silhouette against the viewport. "They're gaining," she warned, her voice breathy from the exertion, but laced with that same sultry edge. As Eli banked sharply, throwing them against their harnesses, her hand slipped back to his thigh, squeezing reassuringly or teasingly. The dual thrill of danger and desire intertwined, making every second pulse with erotic suspense. Would they escape? And if they did, what awaited in the quiet aftermath? Dodging a barrage, Eli punched the hyperdrive, the shuttle leaping forward into a temporary warp bubble. The pursuers fell behind, but the damage was done, the engines smoked, warning lights flashing. "We need to land," he said, scanning for a nearby moonlet, a barren rock with breathable atmo. "Repairs won't wait." Lyra nodded, her eyes dark with unspoken hunger. As they descended, the landing rough but controlled, the moon's surface loomed, a desolate landscape of craters and dust lit by the nebula's glow. The shuttle settled with a groan, and in the sudden silence, the tension snapped back into focus. She unbuckled first, standing with a fluid grace that made her gown shift enticingly, revealing more of her lithe legs. "Eli," she said, extending a hand, her voice a velvet invitation. "The stars can wait. Come, explore with me." He took her hand, the contact reigniting the fire as they stepped out into the alien night. The air was crisp, thin, but alive with possibility. Far from prying eyes on this forgotten rock, the suspense built. What boundaries would they cross under the watchful gaze of the cosmos? The moonlit surface crunched under their boots, a fine powder that glittered like crushed diamonds in the nebula's light. Eli led the way to a shallow crater for cover, his mind split between scanning for threats and the magnetic pull of Lyra beside him. She moved with an effortless sway, her hips undulating in a rhythm that seemed innate to her species, each step drawing his eyes despite the urgency of repairs. "We have maybe an hour before they track the warp signature," he muttered, popping open an external panel on the shuttle, tools in hand. But as he worked, Lyra circled him, her presence a distraction wrapped in temptation. She leaned against the hull, arms crossed under her chest, pushing her curves into sharper relief. "Let me assist," she offered, but her tone suggested more than mechanical help. Her hands joined his, fingers brushing in the confined space, sending sparks that had nothing to do with the wiring. "Zerathians are attuned to energy flows," she explained, her body pressing close as she manipulated a conduit, her breast grazing his arm. The contact was deliberate now, erotic in its subtlety, building suspense as Eli's breath hitched. Tools clattered as he set them down, turning to face her. "Lyra, if we don't fix this." But his words trailed off as she stepped into him, her hands sliding up his chest, nails tracing patterns that made his skin tingle. "We will," she assured, her lips curving into a seductive smile. "But first, release the tension. It's clouding your focus." Her pointed ears perked, catching some distant sound, or was it his racing heart? She pulled him down for another kiss, this one slower, more exploratory, her tongue dancing with his in a way that evoked the swirling nebula above. Eli's hands roamed, one settling on the small of her back, pulling her flush against him, feeling the heat of her body through the thin fabric. The other tangled in her hair, gently tugging, eliciting a soft moan from her that vibrated through them both. The moon's isolation amplified every sensation, the cool breeze contrasting their warming skin, the faint hum of the shuttle a backdrop to their quickening breaths. Breaking the kiss, Lyra's eyes gleamed with desire. Humans are so tactile, she whispered, her hand slipping lower, fingers teasing the edge of his belt. Suspense hung thick. Would they give in here now, with danger looming? Eli's resolve wavered, his body responding to her touch, aching for more. A distant rumble echoed, a ship entering atmosphere. The erotic bubble burst slightly, but instead of pulling away, Lyra pressed closer. Let it fuel us, she urged, her voice husky. Make this moment count. They worked in tandem then, repairs hastened by adrenaline, but interspersed with stolen touches, a brush of lips on his neck as she handed a tool, her thigh pressing against his as they knelt together. Each interaction built the erotic tension, a slow burn that promised explosion. As the last panel clicked shut, engines purring back to life, Eli captured her in his arms, backing her against the shuttle. When we're safe, he promised, his voice rough with need, we finish this. Her laugh was breathy, full of anticipation. Why wait? But the rumble grew louder, forcing them inside. As the shuttle lifted off, evading once more, the unresolved desire simmered, suspenseful and electric, binding them tighter in the dance of pursuit and passion. Back in the void, with the moon shrinking behind, the cabin felt even more charged. Lyra reclined in her seat, her gown now deliberately loosened, exposing the graceful sweep of her shoulder and the hint of cleavage that rose with each breath. Eli stole glances, his hands gripping the controls tighter than necessary. Tell me more about Zerathian connections, he said, voice strained, trying to distract from the ache, but it only deepened the erotic undercurrent. She smiled slyly, uncrossing her legs slowly. We bond through touch, energy sharing, it's intense. Her foot brushed his calf under the console, a teasing caress that made him jolt. The scanners beeped, clear for now. Emboldened, Eli set autopilot again, turning to her. Show me. What followed was a tentative exploration, hands wandering over clothing at first, mapping contours that elicited gasps and sighs. Lyra's skin flushed lavender under his palms, her body arching into his touch, the suspense of full surrender hanging like a veil, ready to tear at any moment. Yet the galaxy conspired, a new alert flashing, Alliance reinforcements vectoring in. The erotic interlude paused, hearts pounding as they prepared for the next evasion, the promise of more fueling their fight. Through twists of fate and laser fire, their bond grew, each brush with danger heightening the desire, turning their flight into a symphony of suspense and sensuality. As the symphony of their escape played on, with the shuttle slicing through the Inkai blackness like a defiant arrow, Eli felt the weight of their shared glances and lingering touches evolve into something unbreakable, a tether forged in the fires of pursuit. The stars blurred past in hyperspace streaks, but the real velocity was in their hearts, racing toward an unknown horizon where danger and desire collided without mercy. Lyra's presence beside him was a constant thrill, her white hair tousled from the chaos, framing a face that held secrets he yearned to unravel, those violet eyes, now stormy with unspoken questions, drawing him deeper into her enigmatic world. But the cosmos, ever the cruel playwright, had no intention of granting them peace. A sudden jolt ripped through the vessel, alarms shrieking like wounded beasts as the hyperdrive stuttered and failed, spitting them back into normal space with brutal force. Eli's hands flew across the controls, sweat beading on his forehead, while Lyra gripped the armrests, her pointed ears flattening against her head in alarm. What's happening? She gasped, her voice cutting through the din, laced with a curiosity that bordered on exhilaration even in peril. Ambush, Eli growled, his green eyes narrowing at the viewport where a fleet of Alliance interceptors materialized from cloaked positions, their sleek hulls glinting like predatory fangs under distant starlight. How had they anticipated the jump? The question gnawed at him, thrilling in its mystery, as if some invisible hand had betrayed their path. The lead ship hailed them, a holographic projection flickering to life. A stern admiral, his uniform adorned with medals that screamed authority, his face a mask of cold calculation. Eli Thorne, you are harboring a fugitive. Surrender the Zerathian, or be vaporized. Lyra's breath caught, her curvaceous form tensing beneath the remnants of her gown, which now seemed more like battle armor in its tattered elegance. But instead of fear, a spark of defiance ignited in her, a surprising surge that made Eli's pulse thunder. She wasn't just a refugee. Whispers of her royal lineage on Zerathia hinted at hidden strengths, and now, in this dramatic standoff, those hints began to unfold. "They won't take me alive," she whispered fiercely, her hand reaching for his, intertwining fingers in a grip that sent a jolt of energy through him, Zerathian essence mingling with human resolve. The interceptors closed in, a noose tightening in the void, their weapons charging with ominous hums that echoed through the shuttle's hull. Eli banked hard, thrusters flaring to life in a desperate bid for evasion, the G-forces pressing them back into their seats like invisible giants. Lasers lanced out, grazing the shields in explosions of light that illuminated Lyra's pale skin in fiery bursts, highlighting the graceful curve of her neck and the determined set of her jaw. "Hold on," he shouted, his voice a dramatic roar over the chaos, as he initiated a spin that turned the shuttle into a whirlwind, dodging death by mere inches. Thrilling maneuvers followed, each one a heartbeat away from catastrophe, Eli weaving through the fleet like a ghost, using asteroid debris from a nearby field as improvised cover. One interceptor exploded in a spectacular bloom of plasma as it collided with a rock, the shockwave buffeting them, but Eli pressed on, his mind a whirlwind of strategy and survival. Lyra, far from passive, channeled her abilities once more, her body glowing with an inner light that surprised even her. Violet energy arced from her fingertips to the console, supercharging the weapon systems in a burst of Zerathian tech magic he'd never seen. "What is that?" he yelled, curiosity peeking amid the thrill as their shuttle fired back, lances of enhanced plasma tearing through an enemy's wing. "It's my heritage," she replied, her voice steady despite the storm, revealing a layer of her past that added to the growing enigma. Born to a line of energy weavers on Zerathia, she'd suppressed her powers to blend in as a refugee. But now, in this climax of desperation, they erupted like a long-dormant volcano. The surge disabled 2 more ships, hulls crumpling in silent screams against the vacuum, but the Admiral's flagship loomed larger, its massive cannons locking on. In a surprising twist that sent Eli's world spinning, the Admiral's hologram flickered again, but this time with a personal edge. "Thorne, you fool. She's not what you think. Lyra of Zerathia carries a secret that could unravel the Alliance, data implants from her clan's archives, stolen intel on our defenses. Hand her over and you'll be a hero." Lyra's eyes widened, a dramatic revelation hanging in the air like a thunderclap. "It's true," she admitted in a whisper, turning to Eli with a vulnerability that pierced his soul, her full lips trembling. "I didn't tell you everything. The traffickers embedded it in me to smuggle out, proof of Alliance corruption, wars they started for profit. I was going to expose them on Earth." The confession hit like a plasma bolt, thrilling and curious in its implications. Had his bold intervention unwittingly thrust him into a galactic conspiracy? Betrayal stung, but it morphed into something fiercer, protectiveness, amplified by the bond they'd built. "Then we fight," he declared, his voice booming with dramatic resolve, surprising even himself as he overrode the shuttle's safeties for a suicidal charge straight at the flagship. The ensuing battle was a climax of epic proportions, thrilling in its intensity. Eli piloted with reckless genius, the shuttle darting like a hornet around the behemoth, lasers exchanging in a deadly ballet. Lyra's energy flared brighter, weaving shields that deflected hits that should have ended them, her body straining with the effort, sweat glistening on her exposed skin, adding a layer of raw, human-like vulnerability to her alien allure. One cannon blast clipped their wing, sending sparks flying and the cabin into a spin, but Eli corrected, firing a torpedo that breached the flagship's engines in a spectacular explosion. Curiosity burned as fragments of the Admiral's transmission looped in static. "You don't understand. She's the key to..." The words cut off as the ship erupted in a fireball, debris scattering like confetti in the void. The remaining interceptors, leaderless, scattered in retreat, leaving Eli and Lyra adrift amid the wreckage, breaths ragged, bodies aching from the strain. In the dramatic aftermath, as the shuttle limped toward a distant repair station, Lyra collapsed against him, her curvaceous form fitting perfectly into his embrace. "Forgive me for the secrets," she murmured, her violet eyes searching his, filled with a surprising tenderness that hinted at deeper emotions. Eli held her close, the thrill of survival mingling with curiosity about what lay ahead, the data in her, the conspiracies it unveiled. "Secrets make life interesting," he replied, his lips brushing her forehead, the gesture intimate amid the ruins. But as they drifted, a new sensor ping echoed, a cloaked vessel approaching, its signature unknown. Friend or foe? The question hung, surprising and ominous, propelling them into the next wave of uncertainty. The repair station orbited a gas giant, a ramshackle hub of outlaws and traders, its lights twinkling like a dubious oasis. Eli docked with practiced ease, but tension coiled in his gut. The battle had drawn eyes, and Lyra's revelation added layers of danger he hadn't anticipated. As they stepped into the bustling corridors, filled with aliens of every hue bartering tech and tales, Lyra clung to his arm, her gown repaired hastily with scavenged fabric that still hugged her figure enticingly, drawing curious stares. "We need parts," Eli said, leading her to a shadowy vendor, but his mind raced with questions. What exactly was in those implants? How deep did the corruption go? The vendor, a tentacled being with glowing eyes, haggled fiercely, but midway through a surprising interruption, a hooded figure approached, whispering, "The Princess of Zerathia, we've been waiting." Lyra stiffened, her pointed ears perking in alarm. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice dramatic and commanding, revealing the royal poise she'd hidden. The figure lowered the hood, unveiling a Zerathian male with similar pale skin and white hair, but scarred from battles. "Your brother, Kale, I escaped the wars to find you. The data you carry, it's not just corruption, it's the map to our lost artifact, a weapon that could end the Alliance's tyranny." The revelation exploded like a supernova, thrilling and curious. Lyra had a brother, and the implants held more than intel, a galactic treasure hunt. Eli's protective instincts surged, but surprise layered on as Kale extended a hand. "Join us, human. Your boldness has proven you worthy." But drama escalated when alarms blared. Alliance remnants had tracked them, storming the station in a thrilling raid. Blasters fired, crowds scattered, and Eli grabbed Lyra, pulling her into a frantic run through twisting corridors. Kale fought alongside, his energy blasts complementing Lyra's, the sibling synergy a surprising force that turned the tide momentarily. In a climactic standoff in the docking bay, surrounded by troops, Eli activated a hidden EMP device from his lawyer days, contraband tech for desperate measures. The pulse rippled out, disabling weapons and lights in a dramatic blackout, allowing them to commandeer a larger ship. As they blasted off, leaving the station in chaos, Lyra turned to Eli with eyes full of wonder. "You keep saving me, but now, with this, we could change everything." The thrill of the escape lingered, curiosity about the artifact burning bright, but a surprising transmission intercepted their comms. The Admiral's final words decoded, "She's the key to peace, not war." What did it mean? The mystery deepened, propelling them toward uncharted territories, hearts entwined in a web of drama and destiny. Deeper into the gas giant's rings they fled, the new ship, a sleek cruiser with hidden compartments, purring under Eli's command. Kale briefed them in the bridge, his presence adding a layer of familial tension that made Lyra's expressions flicker between joy and wariness. "The artifact is the Heart of Zerathia," he explained, projecting a hologram of a crystalline orb pulsing with energy. "Lost in the wars, it amplifies our powers 1,000-fold. With it, we end the oppression." But curiosity gnawed at Eli. Why had Lyra never mentioned a brother? Her hand squeezed his under the table, a silent reassurance, but the dramatic undercurrent suggested hidden motives. As they plotted coordinates to the artifact's rumored location, a forbidden nebula riddled with anomalies, the ship shuddered, sensors detecting anomalies, temporal distortions pulling them in like a siren's call. Thrilling acceleration followed as they plunged into the nebula, colors warping reality, time itself bending. Visions assaulted them, flashes of alternate lives, Lyra as a queen, Eli as a conqueror, surprising glimpses that blurred lines between past and possible futures. In the climax of the distortion, the ship emerged before a derelict station, ancient and ominous, guardian to the artifact. Boarding it was a dramatic venture, corridors echoing with ghostly whispers, traps springing in thrilling sequences, laser grids that Eli disarmed with quick wits, chasms bridged by Lyra's energy weaves. Kale led, but a surprising betrayal loomed. In a chamber glowing with ethereal light, he turned, eyes cold. "The artifact is mine, sister, for Zerathia's true ruler's me." The revelation struck like lightning, dramatic and unforeseen. Kale wasn't savior, but usurper, having orchestrated the traffickers to claim the data for himself. Blasters drawn, the siblings clashed in a thrilling duel of energy blasts, sparks flying as Lyra held her own, her powers amplified by emotion. Eli joined the fray, his human ingenuity turning the tide, hacking environmental controls to flood the room with disorienting gases. In the climactic struggle, Kale lunged for the artifact, but Lyra. The surprising burst of strength fueled by her bond with Eli shattered his hold, sending him tumbling into a void portal. As he vanished with a scream, the artifact pulsed in her hands, its power coursing through her in a dramatic wave that lit the station like a star. Breathless, they escaped as the structure collapsed, the cruiser streaking away. Lyra, artifact in tow, collapsed into Eli's arms, her body trembling from the ordeal. "It's over, or just beginning," she whispered, her violet eyes curious about the power she now held. But in a final thrilling twist, the Admiral's message replayed in full. "She's the key to peace. The artifact unites species, not destroys." Surprise washed over them, had Kale twisted its purpose. With this realization, their path shifted, from fugitives to harbingers of change, the drama of their journey far from resolved, leaving hearts pounding and minds racing toward the unknown. As the cruiser streaked away from the collapsing station, leaving the forbidden nebulas swirling chaos in its wake, the artifact's gentle hum filled the bridge like a lullaby from the stars, its crystalline surface pulsing in Lyra's hands with a rhythm that seemed to echo her heartbeat. Eli steered them toward the uncharted fringes of known space, his mind a whirlwind of possibilities. The artifact not a weapon, but a unifier, a key to bridging divides that had torn galaxies apart for centuries. Yet, in the quiet that followed their narrow escape, drama simmered beneath the surface, unspoken questions hanging like charged particles in the air. Lyra set the orb down on the console, its light casting ethereal patterns across her pale skin, making her look even more like a mythical being stepped out of legend, her white hair disheveled in a way that only heightened her allure. "Eli," she said softly, turning to him with those violet eyes now wide with a mix of awe and uncertainty. "If this truly brings peace, what does that mean for us, for me? A refugee turned guardian of something so vast." Her voice trembled slightly, the weight of her royal heritage crashing back down after the adrenaline fade, and she stepped closer, her gown, patched and clinging from their ordeals, swaying with each movement, accentuating the graceful sway of her hips. He reached out, pulling her into a reassuring embrace, feeling the warmth of her curvaceous form against him, a stark contrast to the cold vastness outside. "It means we're in this together," he murmured, his lips brushing her pointed ear, which twitched adorably under the touch. But as the moment deepened, a sudden klaxon blared, shattering the intimacy like a poorly timed joke from the universe. The ship's AI chimed in with cheerful obliviousness. "Incoming transmission from an unknown source. Would you like tea while you panic?" Eli blinked, pulling back with a chuckle that broke the tension, though his heart raced anew. "Tea, now," he muttered, glancing at Lyra, who tilted her head in confusion, her elf-like ears perking up curiously. "Human tech has a sense of humor, I guess. Or maybe it's glitching from that EMP blast." The awkwardness of the interruption hung there, turning what could have been a tender kiss into a fumbling disentangle, their hands lingering a second too long as they both laughed nervously. The transmission crackled to life on the view screen, revealing a holographic figure that heightened the drama in an instant, a sleek, androgynous alien with iridescent scales and multiple eyes, broadcasting from what looked like a lavish council chamber. "Hail, bearers of the heart," the figure intoned gravely, its voice echoing with synthetic reverb that made it sound like a bad opera singer. "I am Envoy Xerix of the Neutral Concordance. We have monitored your acquisition. Surrender the artifact for safekeeping or face interdiction." Lyra's eyes narrowed, her body tensing as she stepped forward, the artifact's glow reflecting off her white skin like a halo. "Safekeeping or seizure? We've just fought off betrayers, my own brother among them. Why should we trust you?" Her tone was regal, dramatic, a far cry from the vulnerable refugee Eli had first saved, and it sent a thrill through him, mixed with a pang of awkward realization. He was falling for a princess, literally, and here he was, a scruffy lawyer in a borrowed ship, playing hero in a cosmic soap opera. Xerix's eyes, all 6 of them, blinked in sequence, a sight that was oddly humorous, like watching a malfunctioning traffic light. "Trust is earned, Princess Lyra, but delay and the Alliance remnants will converge. They know of the heart's power now, thanks to your explosive exit." The envoy paused, then added with what sounded like a sigh, "And please disable your AI's hospitality protocols. The tea offer is distracting." Eli couldn't help it. A snort of laughter escaped him, breaking the mounting drama just as Lyra shot him a playful glare. "Sorry," he whispered, leaning in, "but imagine if we beamed them a cup. Peace talks over chamomile." She elbowed him lightly, her curvaceous side brushing his, turning the moment awkward yet endearing, their budding romance clashing with the high-stakes negotiation like a rom-com crashed into a space epic. The envoy's hologram flickered as interference grew, heightening the urgency. Decide quickly. Coordinates transmitted for rendezvous at the Vale Nebula outpost. Fail to comply, and we activate containment fields. The screen went dark, leaving them in stunned silence. The ships hummed the only sound until the AI piped up again. Tea preparation aborted. Would you prefer coffee for your impending doom? Lyra burst into laughter first, her melodic voice filling the bridge, and Eli joined in, the humor a brief respite from the drama. Your machines are as bold as you humans, she said, wiping a tear from her eye, her pointed ears flushing a soft lavender in amusement. But the levity faded as they plotted the course, the awkwardness settling in. What if this was a trap? Eli's hand found hers, squeezing gently, feeling the subtle energy pulse from her touch, a reminder of her alien nature that both thrilled and intimidated him. As they approached the Vale Nebula, a shimmering curtain of gas and dust that hid the outpost like a cosmic veil, tension ratcheted up. Sensors picked up multiple signatures, concordance vessels, but also faint Alliance pings lurking in the shadows. This could go south fast, Eli muttered, his lawyer instincts kicking in, scanning for loopholes in the envoy's words. Lyra nodded, her body close to his, the heat between them a counterpoint to the cold dread building. Docking at the outpost was a dramatic affair, the station a sprawling web of modules connected by glowing energy bridges, bustling with aliens of every description. As they disembarked, artifact secured in a makeshift case, a welcoming party awaited, Xerix in the flesh or scales, with a retinue of guards whose weapons hummed ominously. Hand it over, Xerix demanded, extending a clawed hand, the drama peaking as spotlights focused on them like stage lights in a galactic theater. But awkwardness struck when Lyra tripped slightly on the uneven grating, her elegant gown catching on a protruding panel, tumbling forward into Eli's arms in a classic damsel moment that felt scripted. Whoops, she whispered, her face inches from his, violet eyes sparkling with embarrassment and humor. Not the entrance I planned for a princess. Eli steadied her, his hands on her waist, feeling the curve of her hips, a flush creeping up his neck as the guards exchanged puzzled glances. Timing, he quipped under his breath, is everything. Xerix cleared its throat, or whatever equivalent, with a rattling sound. If the comedy routine is over, the artifact. But before they could respond, alarms wailed, red lights flashing as Alliance fighters burst from the nebula's folds, lasers scorching the station's shields. Betrayal! Xerix roared, the drama exploding into chaos. Eli grabbed Lyra, artifact in tow, bolting for cover as explosions rocked the deck. Run! He yelled, but in the frenzy, they ducked into a side corridor, only to find it led to a zero-grav lounge filled with floating diplomats mid-conversation, now scattering in panic. The awkward hilarity hit as Eli and Lyra bounced weightlessly, her gown billowing like a parachute, revealing more than intended while he flailed comically to grab a handhold. This is not how I pictured our first dance, he joked, pulling her close in the anti-grav, their bodies pressing together in a tangle that was equal parts thrilling and mortifying. Guards fired back at the invaders, the battle heightening with each blast, but Lyra's laughter bubbled up again. Humans and their stations, always full of surprises. Using her powers, she propelled them toward an exit, the artifact's energy aiding their escape in bursts of light that dazzled the pursuers. They commandeered an escape pod, launching into the fray, Alliance ships swarming like angry hornets. Eli piloted wildly, dodging debris, while Lyra interfaced with the artifact, its power surging dramatically to cloak them in a temporary illusion field. It's working, she exclaimed, but the pod's comms crackled with Xerix's voice. Fools, the Alliance planted a mole, your brother survived the portal, allied with them now. The revelation amped the drama, Kale alive, vengeful. As they evaded a missile lock, the pod rattled, systems failing in humorous spurts. The AI blared, ejecting non-essential cargo, goodbye emergency rations. Food packs floated out, distracting a fighter in a ridiculous chase. Lyra's hand on Eli's thigh steadied him, her touch electric amid the turmoil. We make quite the team, she said, her voice laced with affection, turning the awkward escape into a bonding moment. Slipping through the nebula's veil, they emerged into clear space, hearts pounding from the heightened stakes. But peace was fleeting, a new signal pinged, Kale's signature, closing in fast. The drama built, awkward alliances shattered, humor threading through like a lifeline as their journey twisted into even greater peril. In the pod's cramped confines, with stars streaking by, Eli and Lyra shared a look that spoke volumes, drama, desire, and a dash of absurdity binding them. "Next time," he said with a grin, "let's aim for a boring vacation." She smiled, leaning in, but another jolt interrupted, the pod's thrusters sputtering comically. "Or not," she replied, their laughter echoing as they hurtled toward the unknown. The pursuit intensified. Kale's vessel, a sleek Zerathian warbird, gaining ground, its weapons charging with malevolent glows. "Sister," his voice boomed over comms, dripping with dramatic venom, "you've aligned with a human, how? Quaint, surrender the heart, or I'll reduce you to stardust." Lyra's face hardened, but awkwardness crept in as Eli fumbled with the pod's outdated controls, accidentally broadcasting their coordinates station-wide. "Oops," he winced, lawyer fingers, not pilot ones. She rolled her eyes playfully, her pointed ears twitching in amusement, even as lasers zipped past. Using the artifact, Lyra created a decoy hologram of their pod, fooling Kale momentarily in a humorous diversion. He fired on the illusion, cursing vividly in Zerathian, which the translator rendered as blasted space squirrels. Eli chuckled. "Your brother's got a colorful vocabulary." The reprieve allowed them to dock at a nearby asteroid mining colony, a gritty hub of roughnecks and smugglers. Hiding in a crowded cantina, drama heightened as bounty hunters eyed them suspiciously. Lyra, trying to blend in, ordered a drink, but Zerathian physiology reacted oddly to human ale, turning her skin a temporary shade of pink. "I look like a fruit," she whispered, mortified, her curvaceous form drawing even more stares while Eli stifled laughs. "Adorable fruit," he teased, pulling her into a booth for cover, their knees bumping awkwardly under the table, sparks flying despite the chaos. A bar brawl erupted, courtesy of Alliance spies spotting them, fists and blasters flying in dramatic melee. Eli, no fighter but quick-witted, used a serving tray as a shield, deflecting a punch with clangorous humor, while Lyra zapped assailants with controlled bursts, her pink flush adding to the absurdity. Escaping through back alleys, artifact humming warnings, they stole a miner's speeder, racing across the asteroid's surface amid craters and drills. Kale's ship loomed overhead, shadowing them dramatically, but a timely cave-in, triggered by Eli's haphazard driving, buried pursuing ground troops in dust, eliciting a triumphant whoop from him. "Take that, space jerks." Lyra clung to him, wind whipping her white hair, her body pressed close in the speeder's tight seat, awkward intimacy amid high-speed drama. "You drive like a madman," she laughed, "but it's growing on me." Reaching a hidden launch pad, they blasted off in a salvaged freighter, Kale in hot pursuit. The chase through asteroid fields was thrillingly dramatic, rocks tumbling like dominoes, near misses heightening every second. Humor peeked through as the freighter's autopilot engaged a tourist mode. "Welcome to the belt, enjoy the views," amid explosions. Lyra synced the artifact to the engines, boosting speed in a surge that left Kale behind, but not before his parting shot grazed their hull, systems flickering. "He won't stop," she said gravely, the drama settling as they limped toward safety. In the quiet, Eli pulled her close, awkwardness melting into tenderness. "Then neither will we." Their kiss, interrupted by a sparking console, ended in shared laughter, drama, humor, and heart entwined. But as they repaired a new twist, the artifact began projecting visions, future glimpses of peace talks with them at the center. Drama heightened. Were they pawns or pioneers? Awkward questions arose. "Me negotiating with empires?" Eli quipped. "I'd probably spill tea on the treaty." Lyra smiled, her hand in his as they forged ahead, the galaxy's fate in their humorous, dramatic grasp. As they forged ahead, the freighter gliding smoothly through the quiet expanse of space, with the asteroid field now a distant memory, Lyra's smile lingered like a gentle promise, her hand warm and steady in Eli's. The artifact's soft glow on the console cast a serene light over the bridge, illuminating the subtle flush on her cheeks and the way her white hair cascaded over her shoulders, still tousled from their recent escapades. The galaxy's fate might rest in their grasp, but in this moment, with the stars as their only witnesses, it felt like the universe had conspired to give them a breath of tranquility. Eli squeezed her hand gently, his thumb tracing small circles on her skin, feeling the faint pulse of her Zerathian energy that always seemed to sync with his own heartbeat, a silent harmony that had grown stronger with every shared trial. She turned to him fully, her violet eyes reflecting the starlight, filled with a depth of emotion that made his chest tighten. "Eli," she whispered, her voice a melodic caress, "after all the chaos, the visions, I feel like we've been building to this." not just as partners in this grand adventure, but as something more intimate, more profound. Her free hand reached up to touch his face, fingers lightly brushing his jaw, sending a shiver through him that had nothing to do with the cool air of the ship. The dramatic weight of their journey had forged a bond that transcended words, and now, in the safety of their vessel, that bond yearned to express itself fully. He nodded, pulling her closer until she was standing between his legs as he sat at the controls, her curvaceous form fitting perfectly against him. "You're right," he murmured, his voice low and filled with warmth. "We've fought side by side, laughed through the absurdity. Now, let's just be us." His hand settled on her hips, feeling the graceful curves through the thin fabric of her gown, a touch that was both reassuring and inviting. Lyra leaned in, her lips meeting his in a kiss that started soft, tender, but quickly deepened with the passion they'd held back for so long. Her pointed ears twitched slightly under his gentle caress, a sensitive spot that drew a soft sigh from her body pressing closer as if seeking to merge their essences. The kiss evolved into an exploration, their hands wandering with a mutual curiosity born of trust. Ellie's fingers traced the elegant line of her back, slipping under the edges of her gown to feel the smoothness of her pale skin, warm and inviting like silk warmed by sunlight. She responded in kind, her hands sliding beneath his shirt, mapping the contours of his chest with a touch that sent waves of heat radiating through him. The energy she channeled, subtle, glowing faintly from her fingertips, amplified every sensation, making their connection feel electric, alive with shared vitality. Lyra's breath quickened, her full lips parting as she whispered against his neck, "Let me show you how Zerathians share their deepest affections. It's a dance of souls as much as bodies." With a shared glance of understanding, they moved together toward the small quarters at the back of the freighter, a cozy space with a soft berth that seemed designed for moments like this. The door slid shut behind them, sealing them in a private world where the galaxy's demands faded away. Lyra's gown slipped from her shoulders with ease, pooling at her feet to reveal her alluring form, graceful and curvaceous, her skin shimmering faintly in the low light as if dusted with stardust. Eli admired her with reverence, his own clothing discarded slowly, allowing the anticipation to build like a slow-burning star. He pulled her onto the berth, their bodies aligning in a natural embrace, skin against skin, the warmth between them igniting a fire that spread gradually, enveloping them in bliss. Their movements were unhurried, a symphony of gentle caresses and whispered endearments. Eli's lips trailed along her collarbone, down to the soft swell of her curves, eliciting soft murmurs of pleasure from her that resonated through him like music. Lyra arched into his touch, her hands guiding his, showing him the spots where her energy flowed strongest, the base of her pointed ears, the curve of her waist, each contact sending ripples of shared sensation that heightened their unity. She moved above him with an elegant grace, her white hair falling like a curtain around them, her violet eyes locked on his as they connected on the deepest level, bodies and energies intertwining in a rhythm that built to exquisite peaks. The experience was profound, a blend of human passion and Zerathian intimacy, where every brush of skin, every shared breath, amplified the emotions between them. Lyra's energy wove around them like a gentle aura, making colors seem brighter, touches more intense, as they explored each other with care and devotion. Waves of ecstasy washed over them, slow at first, then building to a crescendo that left them breathless, bodies trembling in harmonious release. In the quiet aftermath, they held each other close, her head resting on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart as it synced with hers. "That was beautiful," she sighed, her voice filled with contentment, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on his skin. He kissed the top of her head, his arms wrapped securely around her. It was more than that. It felt like coming home. They lay there, entangled in the soft sheets, the artifact's distant hum a soothing backdrop, allowing them to savor the closeness without words. Time stretched, their touches turning affectionate again, light kisses and gentle strokes that reaffirmed their bond. Lyra shared stories of Zerathian customs, how such connections strengthened alliances and souls, while Eli spoke of human love, the raw emotion that drove them to protect and cherish. Their conversation flowed seamlessly into more tender explorations, rediscovering each other with a sense of wonder, the intimacy evolving into a deeper understanding. As the hours passed in their private sanctuary, the freighter continued its course automatically, giving them the freedom to indulge without worry. Lyra's energy pulsed softly, healing minor aches from their adventures, while Eli's human warmth grounded her, creating a perfect balance. They moved together once more, this time with a playful edge, laughter mingling with sighs as they found new ways to express their affection, her sensitive ears drawing giggles when he nuzzled them, his reactions to her energy bursts bringing smiles to her lips. The connection deepened, each moment building on the last, culminating in shared waves of fulfillment that left them glowing, satisfied, and even closer. Eventually, as the ship's systems indicated approach to a safe haven, a quiet orbital station for refueling, they rose reluctantly, dressing with lingering touches and stolen kisses. "We'll have more moments like this," Lyra promised, her hand in his as they returned to the bridge, her glow even more radiant. Eli nodded, pulling her in for one last embrace before duty called. "Count on it, you're my everything now." With renewed strength from their time together, they prepared for what lay ahead, the intimacy they'd shared a secret fuel for their resolve. The artifact seemed to approve, its light steady and warm, as if blessing their union. As the station came into view, their hands remained linked, a testament to the bond that would carry them through any storm. Yet, even in this afterglow, the galaxy whispered hints of future challenges, the artifact's visions hinting at greater roles, alliances to forge. But for now, they reveled in the peace they'd claimed, hearts and bodies aligned in perfect harmony. The orbital station welcomed them with open bays, a neutral hub where they could blend in, resupply, and plan their next move. As they docked, Lyra's energy lingered on Eli's skin, a subtle reminder of their closeness, making every glance between them charged with meaning. They moved through the station hand in hand, her curvaceous form drawing admiring looks, but Eli's protective stance kept any advances at bay. In a quiet corner cafe, overlooking the stars, they shared a meal, conversation flowing about their dreams, a future where Zerathia and Earth coexisted, where their love could flourish without pursuit. Her foot brushed his under the table, a playful tease that reignited sparks, promising more private moments soon. Back on the freighter, as they undocked and set course for the heart of the Alliance territories, to deliver the artifact's message of peace, their bond felt unbreakable. Lyra initiated another tender embrace, her body melting into his, leading to a soft reaffirmation of their connection, gentle and loving without the rush of before. The journey continued, their intimacy a constant thread, weaving through the narrative of their adventure, strengthening them for the trials ahead. In quiet nights, they would return to each other's arms, exploring the depths of their affection, each time discovering new layers of joy and unity. As days blended in space, the artifact's influence grew, enhancing their connection, making their shared moments even more profound. Eli marveled at how Lyra's presence completed him, her alien beauty and spirit a perfect match for his human heart. Together, they faced the unknown, love their greatest weapon, intimacy their sanctuary. As days blended in space, the artifact's influence grew, enhancing their connection, making their shared moments even more profound. Eli marveled at how Lyra's presence completed him, her alien beauty and spirit a perfect match for his human heart. Together, they faced the unknown, love their greatest weapon, intimacy their sanctuary. The freighter hummed along its course toward the core worlds, where the Alliance's central hub awaited, the place where they hoped to present the Heart of Zerathia and ignite the peace it promised. Visions from the artifact continued to flicker occasionally, glimpses of unified galaxies, species hand in hand, wars fading into history. It filled them with hope, a quiet optimism that wrapped around their conversations like a comforting nebula. Lyra stood at the viewport, her white hair catching the starlight, her curvaceous silhouette outlined against the infinite black. She turned to Eli with a soft smile, her violet eyes reflecting the artifact's subtle glow from where it rested on the console. "These visions, they feel so real now, as if the heart is whispering directly to us. Imagine it, Eli, a world where refugees like me aren't hunted, where humans and Zerathians build something new together." Her voice carried a dreamy quality, laced with the affection that had blossomed so fully between them. She crossed the bridge to him, slipping into his lap once more, her body warm and familiar, pressing close in a way that stirred memories of their recent tenderness. Eli wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her nearer, his lips brushing her pointed ear in a gesture that had become second nature. "It's more than imagination," he replied, his tone filled with conviction. "We're making it happen. Once we reach the hub, we'll show them the heart's true power. No more chases, no more betrayals." His hand traced the curve of her hip, a gentle caress that spoke of the deeper bond they'd forged, one that transcended the physical and wove into their very souls. The ship was their haven, a bubble of serenity amid the cosmos, and in these quiet hours, they often lost themselves in each other, soft touches leading to passionate embraces, laughter mingling with sighs as they explored the nuances of their love. But as the freighter neared the outer markers of the Alliance territory, a subtle shift began to unsettle the air. The artifact's hum grew slightly louder, its pulses more insistent, like a heartbeat quickening in anticipation. Lyra noticed it first, her Zerathian sensitivity attuned to such energies. She placed a hand on the orb, feeling its warmth seep into her palm. "It's excited," she murmured, tilting her head curiously, her elf-like ears perking up, almost as if its senses were close to fulfilling its purpose. Eli nodded, checking the scanners, clear for now, no signs of pursuit. Kale's warbird had vanished after their last evasion, and even the Concordant seemed to have backed off. Peace felt tantalizingly within reach. They decided to interface with the artifact more deeply, syncing it to the ship's systems for a final vision before arrival. Lyra channeled her energy, her body glowing faintly as she linked with the crystal, Eli's hand on her shoulder for support. The bridge dimmed, holographic projections blooming around them like unfolding flowers, images of grand halls, diplomats from 100 worlds gathered, the heart at the center radiating unity. But this time, the vision lingered longer, delving deeper. Faces sharpened into familiarity. The stern admiral from their earlier confrontations stood at the forefront, not as an enemy, but as a mediator, his expression one of reluctant alliance. The key to peace, his recorded words echoed faintly from that fragmented transmission. Lyra's brow furrowed, her grip tightening on Eli's hand. "He's there, in the vision, but why? After everything he did, hunting us, sentencing me?" Her voice trailed off as the projection shifted, revealing layers beneath the surface. The artifact seemed to respond to her doubt, peeling back veils of illusion. Suddenly, the images fractured, reforming into hidden truths, flashbacks not of future but of past. Zerathia's wars weren't just clan rivalries, they were engineered by external forces. The traffickers who had smuggled Lyra weren't mere criminals, they were Alliance operatives in deep cover, staging her illegal entry to draw out rebels like Kale, who sought the heart for domination. Eli's eyes widened, his mind racing to connect the dots. Wait, the execution was a setup? To flush out the real threats? But the vision pressed on, unrelenting, diving into personal revelations that hit like a supernova. Lyra appeared in the holograms as a child on Zerathia, but not as a diplomat's daughter, as the Admiral's secret offspring, born from a forbidden union between a human operative and a Zerathian royal during a covert mission years ago. The Admiral, a human himself, had embedded the data implants in her not as a smuggling tool, but as a protective archive, safeguarding evidence of the conspiracy that could expose the rebels manipulating both sides. Lyra gasped, pulling back from the artifact, her pale skin draining of color, violet eyes filling with shock. "No, that can't be. I'm Zerathian through and through, my memory's my home." But the projections confirmed it, genetic scans overlaid, showing her hybrid nature, human DNA woven seamlessly with Zerathian traits, explaining her suppressed powers, her intuitive connection to Eli. The Admiral wasn't her pursuer, he was her father, orchestrating the courtroom drama to execute her publicly while spiriting her away to safety, using Eli, unwittingly, as the catalyst. Eli's bold intervention hadn't been chance. The Admiral had leaked the evidence to him anonymously, knowing the lawyer's reputation for fighting injustice would draw him in. The twist deepened, the artifact revealing the Admiral's desperate gamble. Kale, not her brother but a cloned enforcer created by the rebels from her family's DNA, had been programmed to hunt the heart and twist it into a weapon. The visions showed Kale's betrayal in the derelict station as part of a larger ploy, his survival engineered to chase them here, forcing the artifact to activate its full disclosure. "She's the key," the Admiral's voice echoed again, now clear. "The hybrid child, bridging human and Zerathian, only she can wield the heart without corruption." Eli staggered back, his world tilting. "You're part human, and the Admiral your father. He set this all up?" The surprise crashed over him like a tidal wave, reshaping every moment. The courtroom burst, the chases, their love. It wasn't fate alone, but an orchestrated path to this revelation. Lyra trembled in his arms, tears streaking her face, her pointed ears drooping in confusion. "All my life, a lie, but why hide it from me?" The artifact pulsed sympathetically, projecting the Admiral's final message. "To protect you, daughter. The rebels would have used you. Now, with the human who awakened your heart, claim the peace we dreamed." But the shock wasn't complete. As the visions faded, alarms blared, the freighter emerging from hyperspace right into an ambush. Kale's warbird, reinforced by rebel fleets, loomed ahead, blocking the path to the hub. Sister, or should I say abomination, Kale's voice sneered over comms, your little revelations change nothing. The heart will be ours. Lasers fired, the ship rocking violently, but now armed with truth, Eli and Lyra stood united, her hybrid powers surging like never before. Lyra's energy flared, violet light enveloping the bridge, her human side unlocking reserves she'd never known. He's not my brother, she declared, voice steady despite the turmoil, channeling the artifact to bolster their shields. Eli, recovering from the bombshell, gripped the controls, his love for her undimmed, if anything, strengthened by the knowledge that she was part human, part of his world all along. Then let's end this farce, he said, diving into evasive maneuvers, the twist propelling them into battle with renewed fury. The engagement was fierce, rebel ships swarming like locusts, but Lyra's amplified abilities turned the tide. Energy blasts from the artifact disabling engines, her commands intuitive, drawing on both heritages. Kale's vessel closed in, boarding pods launching. But as intruders breached the hull, the Admiral's fleet arrived in a dramatic flank, his flagship hailing them. Stand down, rebels, the key has awakened. In the chaos of the boarding, Kale confronted them on the bridge, his form flickering, revealed as a holographic construct, the real clone long destroyed, a final rebel illusion to force their hand. The surprise layered on. The pursuit had been a simulation in parts, guided by the artifact to test Lyra's readiness, ensuring her hybrid nature could handle the power without falling to corruption like pure Zerathians had in the past. As the rebel forces scattered under the combined assault, Lyra faced the Admiral via hologram, her father, his eyes filled with regret and pride. I couldn't tell you sooner, forgive me. Tears flowed, but acceptance dawned, the twist reshaping her identity into something empowering. Eli stood by her, hand in hand, the human who had unknowingly fulfilled the prophecy. With the battle won, they proceeded to the hub, the artifact's true potential unlocked by their love, a bridge between worlds. The surprise had shaken them, but it forged them stronger, ready to herald the peace that was always meant to be. The hub welcomed them as heroes, diplomats gathering in awe. Lyra, now embracing her dual heritage, activated the heart fully, waves of unifying energy spreading across the stars. Eli watched, proud, their bond the catalyst that surprised even the cosmos. Yet, in quiet reflection, Lyra whispered to him, the twists of fate, they led me to you. Their kiss sealed it, a promise amid the new era. As celebrations began, a final subtle pulse from the artifact hinted at more, hybrid children envisions their legacy. But for now, they reveled in the surprise turned triumph. As celebrations began, a final subtle pulse from the artifact hinted at more, hybrid children envisions their legacy. But for now, they reveled in the surprise turned triumph. The grand hall of the Alliance hub echoing with cheers from delegates of every species, toasts raised in crystalline glasses that shimmered under the artificial starlight dome. Lyra stood at the center of it all, her white hair braided with threads of glowing energy from the heart, her curvaceous form draped in a new gown that blended Zerathian silk with human elegance, flowing yet form-fitting, accentuating her graceful hips and the subtle lavender flush on her pale skin from the excitement. Eli was by her side, his arm linked with hers, still in his rumpled lawyer's suit now adorned with a hastily pinned medal, looking every bit the accidental hero in a sea of polished dignitaries. The Admiral, her father, approached through the crowd, his stern face softening into a rare smile, his uniform crisp as ever but his eyes betraying the weight of years of secrets. Daughter, he said, his voice booming yet tender, drawing hushed awe from onlookers. Lyra tensed slightly, her pointed ears twitching under the scrutiny, but she stepped forward, embracing him awkwardly, their first real hug, stiff at first, then melting into something genuine. Eli watched, a pang of drama stirring in his chest. This was the man who'd orchestrated their entire saga, the puppet master turned proud parent. Admiral? Father, Lyra whispered, pulling back with tears glistening in her violet eyes. We have much to discuss. The moment heightened the drama instantly, whispers rippling through the hall like a wave, rumors of her hybrid heritage already spreading, turning heads and sparking debates. But before they could delve deeper, a bumbling protocol droid rolled up, its metallic voice chirping obliviously. Congratulations on your unification, with the new family unit like a commemorative holoportrait. Perhaps with matching outfits, the droid extended a tray of garish accessories, neon sashes and glowing crowns, catching everyone off guard. Lyra blinked, her regal poise cracking into a giggle, while the Admiral's face turned a shade redder than his insignia. Eli snorted, trying to stifle a laugh. Maybe later. We're still processing the whole surprise dad thing." The awkward interruption lightened the tension, turning the dramatic reunion into a comedic sideshow as the droid insisted. "But sir, the crowns come in hybrid sizes." They escaped the droid's enthusiasm by slipping into a side alcove, the Admiral leading them to a private chamber overlooking the hub's bustling docks, ships coming and going like fireflies in the void. Here, away from prying eyes, the drama unfolded in earnest. The Admiral paced, his boots echoing on the polished floor, revealing more layers to the conspiracy. The rebels weren't fully defeated. Pockets of resistance lingered in the outer rims, loyal to Kale's cloned ideology, plotting to recreate the heart as a weapon. "Your bond with Eli unlocked its power," he explained gravely, "but they seek to corrupt hybrids like you, Lyra. You're the prototype, the bridge, if they capture you." His words trailed off, heightening the stakes, the air thick with unspoken fears. Lyra's hand flew to her mouth, her body leaning against Eli for support, the curve of her waist fitting perfectly into his embrace. "Capture me. After all this?" Her voice cracked, dramatic vulnerability surfacing as visions from the artifact flashed in her mind, those hybrid children now feeling like targets rather than dreams. Eli's protective instincts flared, but awkwardness crept in when he tried to interject heroically. "Over my dead body, wait, that came out wrong. I mean, we'll fight them off like always." He fumbled, his lawyer eloquence deserting him, earning a soft chuckle from Lyra despite the gravity. "My bold human, always with the dramatic flair. But what if they are already here?" As if on cue, alarms blared across the hub, red lights flashing, klaxons wailing in a symphony of chaos. "Intruder alert, rebel incursion in Sector 5. The Admiral's comms buzzed with reports. Saboteurs had infiltrated during the celebrations, disguised as delegates, aiming straight for the Heart's chamber. Drama escalated as they rushed out, the alcove's serenity shattered. Eli grabbed a nearby stun baton from a guard station, more suited for crowd control than battle, while Lyra's energy surged, her hybrid powers crackling like violet lightning around her fingertips. The Admiral barked orders into his device, but in the frenzy, he tripped over the same protocol droid from earlier, now wheeling about in panic. "Evacuation protocol. Would you like calming music during your escape?" It blared a jaunty tune, turning the high-stakes sprint into an absurd musical number, Eli dodging floating confetti from the party as lasers zipped overhead. They burst into the main hall, where pandemonium reigned, delegates scattering, tables overturning in dramatic slow-motion crashes. Rebel agents, cloaked in holographic disguises that flickered like bad signals, fired suppressors at the guards. Their leader, a snarling figure with Zerathian features twisted by cybernetic enhancements, zeroing in on the artifact's pedestal. "The hybrid whore and her pet human," he snarled, spotting Lyra and Eli, heightening the personal drama with his venomous words. Lyra flinched at the slur, her ears flattening, but she channeled her hurt into a burst of energy that shorted out his weapon, sparks flying comically as he shook his singed hand. "Whore? Really? That's the best you've got," Eli quipped, swinging his baton to trip another assailant, the move more slapstick than skilled, landing the rebel face first into a punch bowl with a splash that drew unintended laughter from a hiding diplomat. The fight intensified, drama building with each clash. The Admiral coordinating reinforcements from afar, his fatherly concern evident as he shouted warnings to Lyra. She and Eli fought back to back, her powers weaving protective shields while he used his quick wits, hacking a nearby service bot to ram into enemies, the little machine beeping indignantly as it bowled over two rebels like pins in a game. But awkwardness peaked when a stray blast hit a chandelier above, sending it crashing down in a rain of crystals. Eli shoved Lyra out of the way, but they tumbled together behind an upturned table, her gown hiking up embarrassingly, revealing a bit more thigh than intended in the midst of battle. "Not the time for a wardrobe malfunction." She laughed breathlessly, pulling it down while blasting another foe, her cheeks flushing lavender. Eli grinned, peeking over the edge. "Hey, if it distracts them, I'm all for it." The leader closed in, grabbing for the heart, his cybernetic arm whirring menacingly. "This will breed an army of corrupted hybrids, starting with you." The threat amped the drama to fever pitch, Lyra's hybrid identity now a weapon against her. She surged forward, energy clashing with his tech in a spectacular light show, sparks illuminating the hall like fireworks. Eli joined, using the baton to short his arm's circuits, the rebel howling as it malfunctioned, flailing wildly and knocking himself into a wall with a thud that echoed humorously. "Cell phone," Eli yelled, high-fiving Lyra mid-fight, their chemistry turning the chaos into a coordinated dance. Reinforcements arrived, the admiral bursting in with elite guards, turning the tide dramatically. The rebels were subdued, their leader captured, ranting about the true Zerathian purity as he was dragged away. In the aftermath, panting and disheveled, Lyra collapsed into Eli's arms, the drama settling into emotional release. "It's over. For real this time?" she asked, tears mixing with sweat on her pale skin. The admiral approached, clapping Eli on the back. "Thanks to you both, but son-in-law, we need to talk about your fighting style. A baton, really?" Eli chuckled awkwardly, rubbing his neck. "Hey, it worked. Besides, I'm a lawyer, not a soldier." Lyra smiled, pulling them into a group hug that felt stiff yet heartfelt, the admiral unused to affection, Eli sandwiched in the middle like an reluctant mediator. Humor laced the moment as the protocol droid rolled back in, unscathed. "Victory achieved. Would you like victory tea?" They all laughed, the tension breaking fully. But as cleanup began, a new comms ping heightened the lingering drama, reports of more rebel cells activating, drawn by the heart's activation. "This piece. It's fragile," the admiral admitted gravely. Lyra nodded, her hand on the artifact, feeling its pulse. "Then we protect it together." Eli squeezed her waist, awkward pride swelling. "Family road trip across the galaxy? Count me in." They stepped out to address the delegates, the hub's dome revealing a fleet assembling, alliances forming in real time. Drama simmered with promise of future conflicts, but laced with humor from their quirky trio, the stern admiral, the hybrid princess, and the bumbling yet brave human. Awkward family dynamics emerged, the admiral grilling Eli on his intentions, Lyra mediating with eye rolls as they planned the next moves. In private quarters later, the drama softened, Lyra and Eli sharing a quiet moment, her body curling into his on a plush couch, discussing the visions of children. "Our legacy," she whispered, her touch affectionate. But awkwardness hit when the admiral knocked, interrupting. "Strategy meeting now." Eli groaned comically, worst timing ever. The meeting revealed intel, a rebel stronghold on a distant moon holding hybrid experiments. Drama heightened, they had to infiltrate. En route, humor surfaced in preparations, Eli struggling with Zerathian armor that pinched in odd places, Lyra teasing, "It accentuates your assets." The admiral sighed, "Focus, you two." Arrival brought tension, stealthy descent, but Eli's boot crunched loudly on debris, alerting a patrol. "Oops," he whispered, leading to a frantic hide in a supply crate. Cramped bodies pressed awkwardly, breaths held as guards passed. Lyra stifled giggles. "Romantic, huh?" Drama exploded when discovered, lasers flying in a moonlit skirmish. Lyra's powers overwhelmed, freeing captives, other hybrids like her, eyes wide in awe. The admiral coordinated evacuation, but a trap sprung, the base self-destructing. They raced out, Eli carrying a young hybrid child, heart pounding dramatically. Escape pod launch amid explosions, humor in the admiral's gruff thanks. "Good save, kid, but next time, watch your step." Lyra beamed, kissing Eli, "My hero." Again, back at the hub, bonds strengthened, the family unit forming amid awkward dinners, the admiral trying human food, grimacing comically at pizza. Drama loomed with new threats, but their humor and love carried them. As visions clarified, showing a growing family alliance, they embraced the future, drama, awkwardness, and laughter intertwined. As visions clarified, showing a growing family alliance, they embraced the future, drama, awkwardness, and laughter intertwined, weaving a tapestry that felt as vast and enduring as the galaxy itself. The hub's grand chambers, once a battlefield of lasers and revelations, now buzzed with the hum of reconstruction and renewal, delegates from distant worlds mingling in tentative harmony under the watchful glow of the heart. Lyra stood at the heart of it, her white hair catching the light like threads of destiny, her violet eyes reflecting not just the stars, but the promise of what could be. Beside her, Eli adjusted his new uniform, a blend of Alliance formality and Zerathian flair that still felt a bit too stiff for his lawyer's soul, his hand never far from hers, a quiet anchor in the swirl of change. The admiral, now a fixture in their lives, paced the observation deck with his usual military precision, but his steps had softened over the weeks, the stern lines of his face easing into something approaching warmth. "The rebel cells are fracturing," he announced during one of their family strategy sessions, holographic maps flickering before them like ethereal ghosts. "Your activation of the heart, Lyra, it's spreading waves of unity. Species long at odds are reaching out, forming packs, but we can't let our guard down." His gaze shifted to Eli, a nod of reluctant respect. "You've proven yourself, son, more than I expected from a courtroom crusader." Eli grinned, rubbing the back of his neck in that familiar, awkward way that always made Lyra's pointed ears twitch with amusement. "Hey, I traded objections for energy blasts. What's next? Family vacations to black holes? The quip drew a rare chuckle from the Admiral, who clapped him on the shoulder, hard enough to jolt, but with affection hidden in the gruffness. Lyra watched them, her curvaceous form leaning against the console, the gown she wore now a symbol of her dual heritage, flowing sleeves embroidered with human stars and Zerathian runes, hugging her hips in a way that still turned Eli's head every time. "We're building something real," she said softly, her voice carrying the melodic lilt that had first captivated him in that fateful courtroom. Not just peace, but a legacy. As the days turned to months, the drama of their early adventures gave way to a quieter rhythm, though not without its sparks. They traveled to Zerathia first, the planet's crystal spires rising like ancient sentinels under emerald skies, a homecoming laced with emotion. Lyra walked the ruins of her childhood palace, hand in hand with Eli, tears tracing paths down her pale cheeks as memories resurfaced, not all lies, but truths reframed by her hybrid blood. The Admiral accompanied them, revealing hidden chambers where he'd once met her mother in secret, stories of forbidden love that mirrored their own. "I couldn't protect her," he confessed one evening by a river of liquid light, his voice cracking for the first time. "But I can stand by you now." Eli, ever the mediator, bridged the gaps with his human empathy, turning awkward silences into shared meals where Zerathian delicacies met Earth comfort food, spicy nebula noodles alongside burgers that the Admiral eyed suspiciously before devouring with surprising gusto. "This cheese substance," he muttered, wiping his mouth, "it's oddly compelling." Lyra laughed, her full lips curving in delight, leaning into Eli's side, as the three of them sat under twin moons, the artifact's distant influence pulsing like a heartbeat across the stars. Humor threaded through these moments, lightening the weight. Eli's attempts at Zerathian dances ending in tangled feet, Lyra's energy bursts accidentally levitating furniture during passionate discussions, the Admiral's stoic facade cracking when a playful hologram prank turned his uniform pink for a day. Back on Earth, the reception was a whirlwind of drama and triumph. Orbital stations buzzed with news of the hybrid princess and her human savior, crowds gathering in holographic plazas to cheer their arrival. Eli's old colleagues from the Mars colonies slapped his back, wide-eyed at his transformation from underdog lawyer to galactic icon. "You went from filing motions to motioning through wormholes," one joked, raising a glass. Lyra charmed them all, her elegant form gliding through receptions, but awkwardness bloomed when cultural clashes arose, like the time she misinterpreted a human handshake as a Zerathian bonding ritual, leading to a flustered diplomat and Eli's hasty explanation amid laughter. "Note to self," she whispered later, nestled in his arms in their quarters, "human customs are delightfully confusing." Their love, forged in fire and revelation, blossomed fully in these times of peace. Quiet nights aboard their new vessel, a sleek cruiser gifted by the Alliance, became sanctuaries of intimacy, where touches lingered and whispers turned to promises. Lyra's hybrid nature enhanced their connection, her energy weaving with his in ways that made every embrace feel like touching the stars. "You're my bridge," she murmured one such evening, her body curled against his, white hair splayed across the pillows like a comet's tail. Eli traced the curve of her waist, marveling at her beauty, the pale skin that glowed softly, the pointed ears that quivered under his kiss. "And you're my universe," he replied, their lips meeting in a kiss that spoke of forever. The artifact, now safeguarded in a neutral vault but linked to Lyra's essence, continued to guide them. Visions of hybrid children no longer felt distant. They became plans, dreams of a family that embodied the unity they'd fought for. The Admiral, softening into a doting grandfather figure, offered gruff advice on strategic child-rearing, his attempts at babysitting simulations ending in humorous chaos, diaper drones malfunctioning, leading to a ship-wide alert that had everyone in stitches. Yet, the galaxy wasn't without its lingering shadows. Scattered rebel holdouts tested the fragile peace, drawing them into occasional skirmishes that heightened the drama once more. One such mission took them to a remote moon base, where they infiltrated under disguise, Lyra as a traitor, Eli as her bumbling assistant, their banter masking the tension. "If you drop that crate one more time," she teased in character, her violet eyes sparkling, "I'll demote you to cargo." The operation turned dramatic when alarms triggered, lasers flying in narrow corridors, but they emerged victorious, the Admiral's fleet mopping up the remnants. In the aftermath, amid debris and triumph, Eli pulled her close. "We make a hell of a team," he said, kissing her forehead. She smiled, her energy pulsing warmly. "Always have, always will." As years unfolded, their story became legend, told around campfires on Zerathia, in classrooms on Earth, a tale of a human who leaped into danger for justice, an alien princess who discovered her true self, and the love that bound worlds. The admiral retired to a quiet estate, content to watch his daughter's family grow, his gruff exterior hiding a heart full of pride. Eli and Lyra welcomed their first child, a girl with violet eyes and a mischievous human grin, under the twin moons of Zerathia, the artifact's light blessing the moment like a cosmic lullaby. In the end, as they stood on a balcony overlooking a unified galaxy, stars winking like old friends, Lyra leaned into Eli, her hand on her swelling belly, hinting at more life to come. "From a brink of execution to this," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. Eli pulled her closer, feeling the warmth of her curvaceous form, the beat of her heart syncing with his. "We jumped in, and the universe caught us." Their kiss sealed the chapter, a perfect harmony of human passion and Zerathian depth, as the stars bore witness to a love that had saved not just one life, but countless. Peace reigned, not without its quirks, awkward family gatherings, humorous cultural mishaps, dramatic echoes of the past, but with laughter and love at its core. And in the quiet vastness, the heart pulsed on, a reminder that even in the cosmos, the boldest leaps led to the brightest futures. And so, as the eons unfolded, Lyra and Eli's legacy echoed across the stars, a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit, where one bold leap ignited a universe of hope. Their children grew into bridges of worlds, carrying the heart's light into new frontiers, ensuring peace wasn't just a dream, but a living reality. Personally, I adore this tale. It's a thrilling blend of sci-fi wonder and heartfelt romance, reminding us that true strength lies in connection and courage. What do you think? Would you jump in to save an alien love, or does the cosmos hold other adventures for you? Share your thoughts below. Thank you all for joining this epic journey. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares fuel our creativity to craft even better stories. Hit that button. Let's explore more HFY wonders together.